Welcome to Keeping Score. I'm Rick Horrow. Each week we bring you insights from the playmakers, deal makers, and rule makers in the world of sports. I'll give you my take on some of the items of the week using my 30 years of experience doing deals for teams, leagues, and players in the $750 billion business of sports. Plus, we'll talk with a central figure in the sports world. The views expressed in this podcast are my own and do not represent the views of Reuters. Let's get started. Big week this week. NHL, NBA Finals, major issues regarding Major League Baseball, into the Indy 500, beginning of golf and tennis majors yet again. Amy Tenery, digital Reuters sports guru. How's that for an intro?
That's an excellent intro. Just keep on calling me a sports guru. It's terrific for my ego.
Well, but it's also accurate relative to everybody else around Reuters. Let me just say that. Listen, the bottom line of all of this today is that we're venue-centric. And it is interesting that the NFL, we'll start with, had a meeting last week where they unanimously voted to move the Super Bowl from L.A., but not to fret. It's only a year delay. They're going to Tampa in the interim. And when the new stadium is open, the $3 billion project for 2022, they'll have an extra year under their belt, which was a good thing. But the bigger thing was that the NFL decided to ease the league's widely derided touchdown ban celebration, and move that mimic violence still not allowed and taunting not allowed, but everything else might be. What do you think of all that?
I'm very, very excited about this. My husband and I sometimes joke, if hypothetically, if we were the NFL commissioner, what we would do first, and the answer is always bring back touchdown celebrations, because I just think it's such an easy rule to change, and I think it's kind of a no-brainer. I think it's a lot more fun. I think it's a sport where in a lot of instances it takes itself a little too seriously sometimes, and it's a sport where the players have their faces almost completely obscured by helmets and masks, so it lets them show a little bit of their personality, which I think is a win for viewers. I think it's a win for the players as well. Where it gets a little bit murky, I guess, is going to be, where the refs have to decide if something is taunting, if something is, I think, what was it, sexually suggestive, or if it mimics violence. They're going to get to a little bit of a murky kind of situation. But from my perspective, this is a win that Roger Goodell desperately needed after a series of, I don't know what you want to call them, incidents or bad choices in his part that were sort of publicly derided. And I think this is going to be good for them. I don't know. Do you feel like this is going to help sort of stem their hemorrhaging viewership? Is this enough of a change that's going to bring people back to watch games?
No, but I think the message that the Roger Goodell is willing to appeal to what outsiders want to think about as far as improving the game may start tipping the scales in the favor of people giving it a second chance. Jumping in the Salvation Army tin around Thanksgiving, nothing wrong with that. That's kind of interesting. Overall choreographed stuff, the league was trying to figure out whether a sufficient choreographing meant a flag, and that's just let them stick to football. It is going to be a judgment call, but it always will be a judgment call. And so I think the issue is that the NFL has a whole lot more to worry about. I totally and completely agree with you that this is the right move. Let's go to another event that I've been at. It's the Stanley Cup Finals, Game 1, Pittsburgh. But they're going to Smashville, Tennessee. And we always thought that was a country music town, and it clearly is. But the Titans have moved there, haven't really caught on. But the Tennessean notes a 30% increase during regular season on Fox Sports Tennessee for the Nashville Predators. And now the 11 ratings, the budding interest in hockey. It's a big deal. NHL a big deal. Nashville a big deal. You a big Stanley Cup fan? Are you an NHL fan? It's a special event. What about you?
I am. Rick, I think you're absolutely right. I think this is a great time for the Predators to get a little bit of momentum in Nashville. They are still technically one of the youngest teams in the league, but you have to keep in mind that they've been around for about 20 years now. So if you're a Predators fan, I think you're saying it's about time. And I know in the past we've kind of talked about certain franchises that are always going to be able to fill seats. Rangers in hockey come to mind, in Chicago, of course. But this isn't a team that necessarily always had that kind of cachet with their fan base. So do you think this is a turning point for them? And I think more specifically, do you feel like this is going to contribute significantly toward the NHL regaining some of its popularity?
Well, the Sun Belt strategy has been working, and Gary Bettman has given Stanley Cups to Toronto, to Tampa Bay, and to Carolina. So we've done it before. Florida needs some work. Arizona has some arena issues. So it's not perfect, but certainly this is a very significant positive. Nashville 26th, according to Forbes, in value, $255 million, where the average is over $500 million. But then again, they don't play these games in the boardroom. They play them on the ice. And for the NHL, the average franchise value, over $500 million, 3% increase, very international. There were 5 teams this year out of the 7 Canadian teams, 5 Canadian teams made the playoffs versus none last year. So as good as it is for Nashville, there's parity all over the league, which is really good. And, the great segue here is that we now have another series that is less dependent on whether you live in one of those two cities, but rather it's captivated the country on how important these two teams are. By that I mean the Cavaliers and Warriors in rematch 2, Series 3 of what they're calling the trilogy, NBA Finals. Maybe it's a best of 3 over a 3-year period. What is your assessment of the NBA Finals?
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of like the other side of the coin. This is sort of like the anti-NHL finals. I don't think there's anybody who is surprised to see the Cavs and the Warriors make it to a rematch. And you're absolutely right. It does kind of transcend geography. It's not, I could see hypothetically someone who isn't from Pittsburgh or isn't, from Nashville, not really tuning in for the NHL, Stanley Cup Finals. But I think Cavs and Warriors are going to be drawing audiences from across the country. And I know we were talking earlier about the fact that, Cleveland isn't exactly a huge market. So to be able to not only be a smaller market, but draw that kind of cross-state interest is huge for the NBA. I'm just wondering if at any point we're going to get to start seeing people say, okay, it's Cavs Warriors again in the years to come. Is there going to be any fatigue with seeing these teams crushing the competition around them?
Well, by the way, everybody needs a rivalry. Federer, Nadal, Nicholas Palmer, Yankees, Red Sox, Michigan, Ohio State. So this could be the rivalry that the NBA was looking for since the Celtics, Lakers in the 80s and the Bulls, Pistons, etc. So I wouldn't go that far, but yet the real issue was the level of difference between teams 1 and 2 and the rest of the league. A lot of blowout. The Warriors entered this final, by the way, 12-0. Nobody's ever done that before, sweeping their first 3 series. So, ask me next week and then we'll figure it out, or the week after. But the NBA doing real well, 1.36 for average billion-dollar average franchise value. They're up 10%. Revenues at $6 billion. They're up. And the Cavaliers, again, this is not won or lost in the boardroom, but they're doing okay. They're $1.2 billion. LeBron James, 11th in the NBA, even though they're a relatively small market. So again, it's not decided on the boardroom balance sheet, but it hopefully for all of us is a heck of a series.
Yeah, I think the Warriors are out for some revenge.
The Warriors out for some revenge, and that's what makes this all interesting. So we'll follow this in the next couple of weeks. Closer to my home, literally about a mile and a half away, Tiger Woods gets arrested for DUI. It's then changed to under intoxicating drugs, and a lot of people are saying bad reaction for medication is the same as drunk driving. Arraignment and hearing set for July 5. You're not a big golf fan, but I assume you're a big Tiger Woods awareness person. Everybody in the world is. What's your sense of where this is going, endorsement-wise, marketing-wise?
I mean, sure. That there's a reason that even though I'm not a big golf fan, I'm still very much aware of Tiger Woods, and it's the reason that he, even in the wake of that scandal many years ago with his numerous alleged affairs, that he's still raking in millions of dollars in sponsorships. And obviously, this is an incredibly tragic story. We don't know all the full details, but if we're going to look at it, specifically from a business perspective, Reuters today just wrote an article in which they spoke to numerous sports marketing experts, and a lot of them don't really predict a big sponsorship exodus, even in the wake of this. Now, I don't know if it's because in some people's minds, driving drunk and driving under, the influence of medication are two different things, or it could simply be the fact that in golf, there just isn't anybody who, even at this point, there isn't anybody who is at his level in the sport. And maybe there just simply isn't anybody who is in line to reach his level of celebrity. Do you predict that this could, finally be the thing that lets advertisers and sponsors walk away from him?
Well, contractually, they're allowed to with the morals clauses that they've inserted in every agreement from a legal perspective. But yet, let me give it some context. In 2009, he was AT&T, Buick, Gatorade, Mr. Blue Chip, and he was making in 2009 $92 million off
Staggering,
course, a heck of a number. He still lets not hold a bake sale for Tiger Woods. Forbes estimated $45 million in 2016, and a lot of those brands, Rolex, Bridgestone, TaylorMade, Hero Motor, Monster Energy, and a pain-relieving ointment in Japanese parlance. Now, those are mid-level marketers. They're not the other ones, and the big deal is Nike. It always has been, always will be. I don't think Phil Knight's going to drop Nike or Tiger Woods because of this. I do think that the most important issue here, he's got to get back and play. And his back is bad. He says he wants to ultimately get back. And he wanted to morph into a golf course designer and a blue chip board guy. But now he's got to focus on the course again because that didn't work out really well. I think July 5 will blow over. I don't think this is going to be a legal proceeding that's going to end up in him being guilty. I think the law forgives this kind of stuff with medication. But Tiger Woods is now held to a higher standard. He's got some strikes against him, certainly. And it's something that certainly bears watching. Thanks for listening to this edition of Keeping Score. I'm Rick Horrow. The producer of the show, Alex Cohen. Associate producer, Bethel Habte. Assistance provided by Tanner Simpkins and Carlos Waddick. And the executive editor of Reuters Digital, Dan Colarusso.